You think you know how history works? The winners write the stories, right? Wrong. Sometimes the winners execute their biggest heroes. Sometimes the guy who saves the entire country gets thanked with the most painful, brutal death ever invented. This is the insane story of the man who was the last hope for China's Ming Dynasty. He was a genius general, a master strategist, and the only person who could stop an unstoppable invasion. His name was Yuan Chonghuan, and for saving his nation, he wasn't given a medal. He was sentenced to Lingchi, death by 1,000 cuts. So how did the greatest warrior in the empire get executed by the very emperor he saved? This is the story of a general who won every single battle he fought, except one: the war against the paranoia inside his own government. Okay, so picture this. It's the 1600s, and the Ming Dynasty in China is completely falling apart. We're talking useless emperors, a government run by corrupt crooks, and rebellions everywhere. And to make it worse, a brand new, super powerful enemy is about to invade from the north. The Ming are getting destroyed. One after another, their armies are crushed. The border is pushed all the way back to the Great Wall. The government in Beijing is panicking. And in this moment of total chaos, a random guy steps up. His name was Yuan Chonghuan. And get this, he wasn't a soldier, he was a scholar, a book nerd. But he was obsessed with military strategy. So after China's biggest defeats, he literally travels to the front line by himself to see how bad the damage is. When he gets back, he makes the craziest promise to the emperor. He basically says, "Give me an army and some money, and I will single-handedly hold the border." And they actually do it. They make him a war secretary and give him everything he needs. Yuan knew their old tactics weren't working. He needed a secret weapon. So he became one of the first commanders in China to use giant European cannons. He took these red barbarian cannons and turned a city called Ningyuan into a super fortress packed with insane firepower. But because of politics, his ally in the government gets forced out, and the new guy orders a full retreat. Yuan says, nope. He decides to hold the fortress, even if he has to do it all alone. In 1626, the enemy Khan, Nurhaci, a guy who had never lost a battle in his life, shows up with a massive army of over 130,000 men to crush Ningyuan. And how many soldiers does Yuan have? Maybe 20,000. He is outnumbered almost 10 to 1. Nurhaci sends a letter demanding surrender. Yuan's response is simple: come and get it. He orders his men to burn everything outside the city walls so the invaders have no cover. It's like a scene from a movie. And the invaders made a huge mistake. They camped way too close, totally underestimating Yuan's cannons. Before they could even attack, Yuan's artillery just started obliterating their camp. For 6 straight days, they threw everything they had at the walls, and for 6 straight days, they got absolutely wrecked by cannon fire. And then, the most unbelievable thing happens. A cannonball hits Nurhaci himself. The invincible Khan, the guy who started an entire dynasty, is wounded in the attack. He's forced to retreat and dies from his injuries a few months later. Yuan, the scholar, just defeated the most feared warrior in the world. The entire country goes wild. They promote Yuan and give him command of all the armies at the border. So a year later, the Khan's equally brilliant son, Hong Taiji, shows up for revenge with another massive army. And Yuan beats him too. This guy is literally a living legend. But here's where it all goes wrong. Winning all these battles made him a hero, but it also made a lot of powerful people in the government super jealous and scared of him. In 1628, a new emperor, Chongzhen, takes over. He's only 16 years old, and the dynasty is about to collapse. Desperate, he brings Yuan back and makes him the field marshal of the entire Northeast. He even gives him his own imperial sword, which means Yuan has the authority to do whatever he wants. So Yuan makes a huge power move. There's another Ming general named Mao Wenlong. This guy was an effective fighter, but he was also incredibly corrupt, bribing officials and running his own little kingdom. People were even whispering that he might betray the country. Seeing him as a massive risk, Yuan confronts him, lists all his crimes, and using the emperor's authority, executes him on the spot. He just killed another Ming general. This turned out to be a terrible move. First, it removed a key distraction for the enemy. But even worse, it made everyone in the corrupt government absolutely hate him, since that other general had been paying them all bribes. Yuan proved his loyalty was to the empire, not to them. And that basically put a giant target on his back. The enemy Khan, Hong Taiji, wasn't just a warrior. He was a master of psychological warfare. He knew he couldn't beat Yuan's cannons head-on, so he came up with the most insane plan ever. In the winter of 1629, he marches his entire army the long way around, through Allied territory, completely bypassing Yuan's fortresses to attack the capital city, Beijing, directly. Yuan is caught completely by surprise. His entire defense is now useless. Hearing the news, he grabs his best soldiers and leads a desperate, high-speed march across the country to save the capital. He literally beats the enemy army there and, against all odds, defeats them right outside the city walls. He saved the capital. This should have been his greatest moment ever. Instead, it's what got him killed. Back in the city, his enemies started spreading rumors. How did the enemy get past the border so easily? Why was our best general caught off guard? They whispered that it had to be a setup. And this is where Hong Taiji unleashes his ultimate 200 IQ move. He fakes a conversation. He captures two government officials and intentionally lets them overhear his generals talking about a secret deal they have with Yuan. The plan, they said, was for Yuan to let them into Beijing so they could overthrow the emperor together. Then, Hong Taiji let the officials escape, knowing they would run straight to the emperor. And the paranoid emperor totally bought it. It confirmed all his worst fears. On January 13th, 1630, the emperor summoned Yuan to a meeting. The second Yuan stepped into the room, he was arrested. The hero who just saved Beijing was thrown into a secret police dungeon. Are you kidding me? The charge was treason. There was literally zero evidence, just the rumors and the story from the two officials. But in the paranoid, dying empire, it was enough. Yuan Chonghuan, the man who defeated two Khans and was the country's only hope, was found guilty. His sentence was the most horrible punishment you can imagine. Lingchi, the slow slicing. Death by 1,000 cuts. This punishment was saved for the worst criminals imaginable, like traitors. It was designed to be as public and as painful as possible. They literally slice you into pieces while you're still alive in front of a giant crowd. And in their beliefs, being dismembered meant your soul would be mutilated for all eternity. It is the most terrifying death ever. On September 22nd, 1630, they took Yuan to the execution grounds. The crowd, the very people he saved, had been completely brainwashed by the government's propaganda. They believed he was a traitor. They hated him. The executioner started his work. With a sharp knife, he slowly sliced pieces of flesh off Yuan's body for hours, carefully keeping him alive the whole time. It took half a day for him to finally die. And then, in the most insane and horrifying twist, the people in the crowd rushed forward, bought pieces of his flesh, and ate them. They literally cooked and ate the man who had just saved their lives. This is one of the most messed up things in all of history. Right before his execution, Yuan wrote one last poem. It said, "I do not worry about lacking brave warriors after my death, for my loyal spirit will continue to guard Liaodong." After they killed him, his body was dismembered. Only his head was left. In an incredible act of bravery, a single city guard risked his life to steal Yuan's head from the execution site. He secretly buried it in his own backyard, and for hundreds of years, his family secretly guarded the grave. Killing Yuan was the dumbest mistake the Ming Dynasty ever made. With their best general gone, military morale was crushed. The incredible defense he built just crumbled. Many of his best officers, disgusted and heartbroken, just defected to the enemy. The emperor didn't save his dynasty. He signed its death warrant. 14 years later, in 1644, the Ming Dynasty was destroyed. As invading rebels swarmed Beijing, the emperor, completely alone, killed himself. The Manchus then swept in, took over, and started their own dynasty that would rule for 300 years. And here is the ultimate plot twist. Almost 100 years after Yuan's death, the new Qing dynasty, the dynasty of his old enemies, opened up their secret archives. And they found absolute proof of the plot to frame Yuan. They found proof that he was 100% innocent. His own enemies were the ones who finally cleared his name. The story of Yuan Chonghuan is just insane. It's a crazy, tragic lesson about how paranoia can be more destructive than any cannon. He won every battle against the enemy, but he never stood a chance against the jealousy and fear in his own government. He was the sword and shield of his country, a patriot who gave everything, only to be thanked with the most brutal execution ever. His loyal spirit, just as he wrote, would continue to watch over the empire he saved and the empire that completely destroyed him. History is filled with insane stories like this. If you want more deep dives into the craziest events of the past, make sure you smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. And let us know in the comments, who is another historical figure whose story of betrayal we need to tell. Thanks for watching.